Good afternoon, everyone. I am Brad Chester, the tallest man in 40K, and I am here with Sean Dice with Rice. And that's harder to say every time I say it, but I love it. And we are here to talk about the meta, or specifically dealing with the meta. I like that too. I got pretty aggressive there. Pretty aggressive about dealing with the meta today.
Yeah, today we're going to be talking about the recent Metawatch that they put out. Apparently they're going to grace us with one of those, well, let's not say every month, but so far it's been 2 months in a row, so it's been pretty good.
We should go with the fact that Joe over at Meta Mondays has basically showed what the differences between his stats and their stats are in his Monday update for this Monday, which was the 27th of November as per this recording. So let's go into there. They're not huge, to be honest with you. For a change, the deal with the Metawatch was somewhere in the realm of goodness.
Yeah, I mean, they do a good job, at least this time. You know, sometimes it feels like they fluffed it a little bit, but they really cut down this time. And I think that's because they really wanted to show that they think they're doing a real good job with it. And for the most part, you know, what we got here is, yeah, they're doing okay.
Let's take a look at it. Hey, newsflash, Eldari's doing all right.
Yeah, that might be a recurring theme. Just maybe.
Hey, I'm just excited that Eldari for an 11-week span is underneath 60%.
We gotta start with our goals small goals.
Let's talk about a couple of these, because a couple of these are not as consistent as others. Eldari, yes, been crushing the entire time. League of Votann, however, is riding the roller coaster of weekends. Sometimes they're 60-some%, sometimes they're 48, 49%. As an average, they're now 55%. I still think this is a really good army, but man, it has been never lows, but like really big highs, and then brought it back down, then up and down. What are your thoughts on that and why?
So I think some of the Votann players are figuring out what I've been saying, which is you are a hammer. Your army tries to trickle in for 1 or 2 turns and then develop the board space to just move your units out and deal your damage with your tokens. To 3 units and your obligatory 1 land speeder scout unit, whatever you want to kill to get your CP. So now that they've figured that out, I don't think there's a whole lot more to the army. So I think we're going to see their win rate kind of like stagnate now. I don't think it necessarily needs to be addressed right this second, but potentially in the future, if some things can't, hang, that 55%, if some people start to pick up Votann, could creep into the dangerous section.
I'd say on that. Templar has been very just consistent. The Cal Ripken Jr. of this, don't worry about me. I'll be using 1980s baseball references as much as possible. But they haven't won a ton of tournaments. They've just been putting up a 55% win rate since the data sheet, basically. Even including now with the Space Marine Codex up.
Yeah, I think there's really something there. We talked about this a little bit yesterday on the Monday show. I think just their index, Templars, is pretty powerful. Now, obviously, they don't give us the breakdown here of if they're including, Ironstorm in there and Index and Gladius. They kind of just have Black Templars, and then you have Adeptus Astartes down in the other place. So not really sure what they're going with here, because they don't really give us a description of it, but I would assume that means their Index and Ironstorm together.
I mean, it has to be, does it not?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
But
the overall... Now, the one that is literally trying to put on a fake nose and glasses is Chaos Space Marines. They got them at 54%. Man, this thing at the top it makes up half of all top 8s. It is 23 wins so far. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you just look at plain win percentage, sure. But that army is that and Eldar, and it beats Eldar. So like it's hard.
This is one that has been slowly creeping us up on us for a while. And since we are talking about what they say in the Metawatch, they're aware that it took a little bit of time for people to figure out the best Chaos Space Marine build, and they are aware that once people have started to really find what works, it's getting to be a little bit of a problem. So I don't think that 54% is representative. I think that is probably should be right up there at the top with Eldar as, hey guys, this might be a little bit of a problem pretty soon.
Yeah, it has to have the asterisk on it. I mean, yes, 54% kind of sitting in the nice place, but it's not. It's just so not. It makes up for so much of top tier play. And I almost want to see, because you've got 1.5 builds, you basically got, well, I could say 2 builds, and you could just say the Accursed Cultist build and the other, but there's a lot of people that just playing CSM because they like CSM, so they've got random stuff, and that's fine. But when you're looking at a meta watch, it is important to differentiate what's being played and abused at top tables. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's just a big deal on that.
Yeah, and what we're talking about there is, I think there's kind of like Eldari, Chaos Space Marines have a good spread of units that are pretty good. You have like the build around Abaddon and a Hellbrute gunline type build. You have the how many rhinos with Chosen can I actually take build. And then you have, more of the Mani Chima. I would like to hurt my back and play 6,000 models of the Cursed Cultists and move them around the board constantly. And the fact that it's going to take probably nerfing one of those to see how strong, like, whatever the remaining one is. That's something we're not going to know till January. Well, actually, till after January. So keep an eye on that.
Yeah. Get into Orks. I think that the middle here is a couple armies: Orks, Knights, and World Eaters. I think the World Eaters are probably the most powerful of the armies in there. And I don't even know if they're powerful as far as what they're going to consistently do, but that is definitely an army that can make you feel bad if you don't have the tools to deal with it. Orks are just an army that plays the game and plays it well, scores a lot of points. I think not only would I be surprised, I'd be angry if they touch my Orks with anything bad, just because of the fact that it's a very grind out army. CK is a little bit of the same way. I don't think that needs anything. I like where those armies are, to be honest with you. The World Eater is the only one that can make you feel bad, just because of the I can be on top of you turn one and you can do nothing about it kind of thing with certain armies.
But they are very honest about it. And actually, I would go one step further. I would say Orks to about Dark Angels, everything in there feels about right to me. I don't feel like if I'm playing with Tyranids or Chaos Demons or against them, that I'm like a huge favorite no matter what, or that if I'm playing with them, I just have no chance of winning. So I think for the most part of those, 10 to 11 factions, I think that's pretty accurate.
I think they're actually doing really well.
I think they are doing really well.
We'll go, Evan, we're going to go into the predictions. I say give me a weekend. As far, I love that, John. CSI motto, move along, nothing to see here. Yeah, this is not the faction you're looking for. Move along. But we've said this a couple times now, Evan. How would you guys fix Eldar and CSM? Mechanics for Eldar. I cannot stress enough. The Incarn costs 100 more points than it originally did. Auto include in a lot of rosters. Night Spinners, I don't even know what a price on a Night Spinner would be to make you not take at least one. It just they need to change the mechanics. I mean, and it's just easy. You just slightly word that one differently. Just make it so it doesn't basically make no advance. That one's just been big. The Incarn's mechanic is bullshit. CSM, on the other hand, is probably just a decent amount of points, to be honest with you. They just punch up really well. Chaos Lord at 75, Chosen at a $110 for 5, with all the things they can do.
Yep.
They could change it a bit if they just make the Undivided Strat 2 CP. That would actually make a big difference too, though.
I think, yeah, there's a lot of small things they could do. Just to give you my take on Eldar, the bare minimum, something has to change on the Night Spinner. If they do nothing else but change something on the Night Spinner to make it less oppressive, be that take away dev wounds, take away stopping people from advancing at all and just let them advance, or even just restrict its limitations to only infantry. They need to do something, and if they do that, I think we can start there and see how the meta starts to shape.
I mean, to be fair, they could just take the points away and just take those mechanics away. Just make the mechanics not so brutal. I mean, that thing is bonkers town. It has twin link dev wounds, no advance, -2 to move in it, and charge. What? You know what I mean? Like, come on.
So, we actually do a bad job of explaining why that's so good. We talk about it, and a lot of people know it, but the real thing is, against artillery factions, you generally want to be pretty aggressive, because if they're going to shoot you at a line of sight, doesn't really matter if they shoot you in line of sight. So you get pretty aggressive and you time up. The problem here is when you pair the very tanky units, such as Wraithguard bricks, where they actively punish you for getting aggressive. Okay, well, if you're going to take a more defensive stance and 3 Night Spinners sit behind a wall all game, 3 Night Spinners put out, let's see, each individual one puts out, the total is going to be, what, 15 D6 plus 15? I believe that's right. And when you look at that and you'd realize all of those are rerolling wounds, and for every 6, it's just 2 wounds.
It's the devastating wounds that's the biggest problem. Yeah. You can't just sit. You're like, hey, Exactly. It doesn't have an AP. No one cares, man, because they're fishing for 6s. They average 4/6 mortal wounds per vehicle. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So if they have 3,
they pick up knights.
Yeah, I'm saying but I mean, they pick up your big tanks. You're looking at a gladiator. You know what I mean? Those chassis, a Lehman Russ. They can, even on like a slightly, not even a full column shift right, will take out a Lehman Russ. If you shoot 3 Lehman Russ or 3 at 1, it's just nuts. And if you're playing a horde army, screw you. You're like, hey, I'll hit your first 3 units. Cool. Everybody's -2 move, no advance. Good luck moving.
Can't even get to the objectives to even implement your horde strategy. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about why the Night Spinner is so good. Is it forces you to play differently and then punishes you for playing differently. And there's really a no-win situation there, other than World Leaders actually has a good matchup into it going first, because you just run and tag everything and they don't get a chance to implement any of those strategies.
Yep. And I'm going to go to everybody with Necron stuff. So I'm doing a big weekend of testing, and Sean and I are going to break down Necrons pretty hard pretty soon here. So I don't want to touch into what I think about Necrons until I really put it on the board. I'm going to put it on the board a lot this weekend.
Yeah. That's definitely one thing. When we're doing a deal with it on a faction, we make sure that, and if you're a first-time watcher, we usually break down a faction and give you all the high-level advice for free without a paywall, and just let you see it and do with that what you will. But in order to do that, we actually need to play with the codex. We can't just give you hot takes and then them be wrong in a month.
Right. And I really want to put that, because there's some things, like for instance the Hyper Ninja Death Monkey. I'm pretty sure that's what the detachment's called. It might be that, or it might be ferret. It's monkey or ferret. I don't remember which. But the ones that are really movement based on that, it also requires me to see the points. We had points on Saturday. You know what I mean? So I'll be making some decisions and of what the list is going to look like, or a couple lists are going to look like, and we'll go from there. I don't want to just say I think this is going to be good, but it might. I got to put it on the board. I got to start running the numbers. I'm a real big stickler on efficiency, points per wound, points per attack, and things of that nature. I will do a little AdMech too. AdMech, as usual, least favorite faction, but I already think that play is a little viable. The problem is AdMech is a little bit worse than everybody else in things that they want to do. I don't think they're bad though, and I think that they might have some super secret mojo. I'll get back to you on that. I need to see the final points on that too, because I think I have some secret sauce in AdMac, and it makes me angry.
Oh, that's how you know it's got to be good. So if you check out, yeah, if where Necrons and AdMech are currently, I don't think they're gonna leap up. I don't think, but probably sit around within that Goldilocks is actually right. I don't think either Brad or I got the impression looking at the codexes that it was like unbelievably the best thing to have ever come out. Like you know, certain moments in ninth edition. I think it's mostly fair, and you're going to see it kind of sit within that orcs to where they actually sit now range.
I think they're going to go up, but it going to 1+. Were Deckers doing well enough to have Lich Guard and Warriors completely gutted? No. Are they going to be a completely different army? Yes.
Yes.
Is it going to be a good army? Yes.
Yes.
Unfortunately, you can't play the same thing, and that is a kind of a little bit of a bitch for everybody that was modeling specifically for that, because I do think that you're going to have to bring significantly different looking forces for Necron moving forward. It's going to be a completely different army.
And then of course, rounding out the bottom of the meta here, you have the stuff that if you've been playing it, it's not particularly performing like they want to, and Blood Angels, Grey Knights, Imperial Knights, Guard, Deathwatch, Custodes, and poor Drukhari just chilling at the bottom.
Let's jump to the next slide on this, because I want to talk about how they don't think that they're far off with Eldar and Drukhari, and I think that they're half right. So, Eldar, GW's win rate's 57%, Meta Monday's got them at 62% with the mirror removed. GW has Drukhari's win rate at 44%, and the Meta Monday win rate is 41%. I think that Eldar are very, very close to being fine. And I'm always biased on this because it's my favorite faction, and it's also a faction I haven't played in 10th because I thought it was too busted and it didn't look fun. It also didn't look Eldari. But if they make mechanical changes, I think that Eldar, with the points and everything they've already done, is very, very close to being fine. It's just everybody is all the memories of them getting decimated by Eldar. So what I think the big deal is, they make a couple of changes. One, Phantasm still should be punted into the sun. Two, Night Spinner's mechanics have to be changed. The Incarn mechanics have to be changed. Nothing feels shittier than a Night Spinner hitting you, rolling hot, killing something, and a Incarn showing up in your backfield on turn 1 because you can't do anything about the fact that he just dropped 10 dev wounds on you, and you're like, cool. Those all have to change because they're unfun moments, and they're things that you can't do anything about as a player. You just go, well, suck. You know what I mean? So that's a big deal. But I think that Eldar are very, very close. Now, I don't agree with what they said on Drukhari. I think Drukhari is in a pit of despair. It is literally being currently tortured by a homunculus. Your favorite army has been turned into a living chair that people just sit on. Only the Archon Skari has been able to do something with this. But for the average Dark Eldar player, your army is not fun. And the problem with that is Drukhari's fate is always tied to the Eldar fate, because if you juice up Drukhari too much, what you get is a half Eldar, half Drukhari army, where they take anything that's bad in Drukhari and they replace it with Eldar.
Yeah, I think they're really struggling to find the identity that they want for Drukhari, and they are. This, to me, the statement right here that they said, it really leans, and Drukhari players are going to hate this, and I'm sorry. I think they're just going to wait for the codex. I think they're going to wait for the codex to come, and they're going to say, okay, cool, this is what we decided we didn't like from them. Here's this brand new thing. And the only hope is that they give us kind of like the Death Guard treatment, like the holdout. Here's this brand new army rule to add to your army.
In double. They did such a good job, okay? We shit on GW about a lot of things. They completely hit the mark. I wish I had the Dumb and Dumber, and you totally redeemed yourself. But they did. Death Guard went from 0 to hero. It's a great faction right now. It's fine. It's literally actually perfect where it is. It's a 51% win rate army that has upside. You know what I mean? I actually believe you. KR goes, they'll probably be at 30% if Scar didn't play them. Yes. Also, what's going on, Todd? But one of the big things about it is that they just need to mechanically fix it. I mean, it needs a Death Guard rehaul. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think they did a good job with that. I think they did a good job with propping Votan up with the way they change stuff. So I have to give GW props on the things that they did do. And we know that they've done it now. They're willing to change an army without a book. You know what I mean? Here's a fully new mechanic for that army. So I feel that there's hope there. And they have to realize that if you put Drukhari on the board and you don't put any Eldar with it, it feels meh. So, yeah. Let's go to the fact that they said exactly Eldar and Chaos Spades are the two best factions in the game. They at least acknowledge that. Because it's wildly better, by the way. Eldar are closer than CSM, weirdly enough. Well, what are your thoughts about that? I actually think that, to be honest with you.
I do. I think there's... So this is good. Like, the first step of admitting is admitting you have a problem. And this is a problem. We're going to get a little later in the show, we'll get to why they may not think it so. But this, at least we have it from them directly. Hey, we know these are the two best factions. I think there are some changes you can make, small changes, as Brad's already outlined for Eldar. For CSM, just making it so dark packs hurt you. I think would be a fantastic change.
Well, it's such a joke. Well, let's talk about this real quick, because Dark Pact is their chaos ability to either get lethal hits or exploding hits, or sometimes both, Hellbrute. And they take a leadership check, and if they don't pass the leadership check, then they take D3 mortal wounds. Well, the big thing on this is most of the guys have the ability to re-roll that in the first place. And also, half these units have a feel no pain against it. So there's no downside to the Dark Pact. There's no even risk. You're just like, occasionally I take a mortal. You're like, yeah, I'm gonna Dark Pact. How many times? All of the times.
Every single time. I've been playing CSM for a while just to test out kind of a new idea in 40k lists, this role of like the assassin that has deep strike and ingresses in. And I have never once regretted dark pacting. Never.
I mean, I would dark pact twice if I could.
Yep. I definitely would. So I think with small, we could drop them straight to, I honestly think, a true, real 50% win rate if you were to nerf dark packs in some way. Either make them just take flat 3 mortals.
Well, you don't know. I'm saying you just make them take mortals, period.
Exactly. Or you could, you could just say you're going to take D3 mortals. That's the other way to do it. Just depending on how far you want to push them down. The reality is, currently they just do way too much.
It's also the cost. This is an army that probably just straight needs a little bit dark pact, but it just needs points. I mean, when you go, hey, you just wiped my unit. How much did your unit cost? And you're like, the character and the unit were 185. You're like, what? You're like, didn't you just do 10 mortal wounds to me and 20 wounds? You're like, yes.
Yeah. Good example of that. It is very reasonable to assume when you send 1 Chaos Lord and 5 Uninvited into a Plague Burst Crawler and a Hellbrute, that you just kill both of them. And you have anywhere from 2 to 3 of those units running around. So I'd like to see also with Brad, the points kind of change on them just a little bit.
So here's the thing. What are the musts? Let's click on this. Like before we go to the factions, okay? What are the must-have changes? Because I think that the must changes for Eldar are spinner mechanic, Yunkarn mechanic, and I think that everything else is arguable.
I kind of I agree with that in one form, as long as I still think Wraithguard need a change. I think you could fix Wraithguard with points, but I agree wholeheartedly. Night Spinner must be changed in some way at the barest of minimums. You must change that model.
I'm just going with the must, the things you have to change.
Okay, then I'm going to go Night Spinner must change, and I think if you're really going to fix CSM before they become a problem, I think Dark Packs Dark Packs probably need to change in the long term. But if I'm going must, you got to put the Chaos Lord and the Chosen up in points. That is a must. You must do that.
I'll get that. So GW said, with all that being said, that they were very happy with the meta overall. I don't disagree with that, because I like the fact that when we're starting to get ready to prepare for tournaments, that I have to work on a lot of things. Like, I can't just go, I need to prepare. I said this last night. It was off screen, actually. We were talking about the fact that if you just prepare for Eldar and CSM, well, you're going to be real bummed, because you're going to face a lot of other things in the meta right now. There's a lot of games played with a lot of different armies. And I do like this quite a bit. Like I said, I'm a GW shill, so I have to say this, but I do think it, though. You know what I mean? Like, we shit all over them for the things they do wrong, and they do a ton of stuff wrong. But they also do some things right. So the meta itself is close to being a pretty tasty meta. You know what I mean? So,
and I should clarify, since I'm the one who made the slide on it. This does not mean that Eldar are towering over everybody. It means that you're quite literally going to start at wherever. You're going to play Blood Angels and Grey Knights.
Well, let's talk about
whoever.
this slide, though, because of the fact that sorry to jump all over it, because I want to give you props on this, because there's a point in, well, because I'm going to we had second nerf, but what about third Eldar nerf? Because we had 10 weeks of Eldar just destroying everyone. You know what I mean? Like, laughably. And then we had nerfed them, and then they were still wildly number one. And then it's after, again, getting nerfed, they're number one with an asterisk next to CSM, who, again, is literally an undercover with his, again, the fake nose and the mustache, going, yeah, Eldar, you should hurt them, as CSM's dismantling them. And so it's for real, though.
Yeah, so at the same time, you will play all these different armies on your way to the top. But once you get there, Eldar's still there. And, as they say, yep, they're aware of that. They know it's one of the best armies. They're definitely still looking to change it. If you go and check out our last Metawatch video, they clearly outlined, hey, this is what we're looking at. We're looking at Wraithguard, Avatar, Night Spinners. We are not opposed to changing current Dataslate rules, but they're aware. They're at least looking at it.
Yeah, well, and we will see. We know that the Dataslate's going to be a big deal. Now, just for KR, we have a slide for it. Please like and subscribe both on Dice with Rice and Death or Glory. It really does help us a ton. Making it so other people can find the video, and also making it so I can turn the lights on.
And don't forget to check out our other videos. We've got tons of different factions we've already done, giving you clear and concise advice on how to play the faction, how to actually, develop your own style and the things that you love about it. So go check out those videos too.
So GW, you said Orks are OP. And then the win rate went down.
Brad Chester is the hero that the Orks deserve.
Orks are perfectly fine and do not need any nerfs. I actually think they need a couple buffs. Actually, I don't think they need buffs. I think they need identity, and that'll come with a codex. I want to see the clan, Snakebite, Snakebite, Goffs, everybody. I same thing I feel with Marines. I really want each chapter, clan, dynasty to have its own play style and identity. I don't like the fact that we have this homogenous stamp of this is a power armor guy, this is an orc, this is a Necron. I would really like to see a little bit more individuality in those. And that is just me going on my soapbox because I like the lore and the fluff.
No, I think you're right.
Orcs are 3 from now, 2 from now.
They're coming out with Dark Angels, I believe.
Yeah, but orcs are soon, correct?
Yes, actually, I think they're within the next 3 months for absolutely sure.
This is still a good meta. And I do prefer to have lights on because candlelight does strain my old eyes when I'm trying to read something. I do have a light on right now, and it's killing my soul. My head hurts in another way. Sean put nails in my eyeballs.
So the butcher's nails.
Butcher's
We're
nails, my
making
friend.
Brad Angron.
All right, now we're gonna make KR and a couple other people sad. Whew! Custodes and Imperial Knights, guys. I'm not even talking about their win rates because they are not great.
And as you'll hear them say in the video, they're working on it. They're still aware of it, just like in the previous video that they put out. They're aware that they hit Custodes and Knights a little too hard, and they are in the process of deciding what they want to do with it. And they actually gave a shout out to the fact that they are communicating with testers to try to see, hey, what do you think would actually make a good impact, but not an overpowering impact? So that was good to hear.
You know, I think one's easier than the other.
Well,
I think that the Knight's easier. You know why?
Yes.
Because you just go, hey, push the rewind button. Because it's synergy. It's the gestalt of everything. It's the meta itself. The meta itself saved Knights after towering away. The meta had already adjusted to what they could do against Knights. It was the beginning when we didn't have the terrain. We had the towering. We had a couple things. Just give them back their points. You know, one, the bondsman ults. What was up with that? That was just a kick when you're down. You're like, man, we have the Knights down and their head's so close to my foot. Might as well kick them one more time. I love just going off. You're gonna send KR in a frenzy. No one plays them anyways. The Custodes are the one that needs a rework. Imperial Knights, you could literally just go, hey, remember all the stuff we did? We were just joking. Take it all back. You know what I mean? Give them the rerolls. Give them their points back. Towering doesn't exist anymore. There you go. Knights, your win rate will go up. I actually really believe that. Custodes, you did too many small hits to them and you took away their detachment identity. You just need to fix that. I don't think that's doing anything until they get their codex. Their codex is coming out really soon. There's zero things that are going to happen to Custodes until they get their codex. In my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think even anything they do will be that impactful until they get their codex, and we know it's going to be soon. And if we were going to do the same thing we did the Muss, I think Muss for Imperial Knights, give them their bondsman back. Yes. Flat out, just give it back to them. For Custodes, I do not think you need to make their unit sizes back to 10. I think you give them some small point drops until their codex, and we're in a holding pattern.
You're waiting for the codex. You're waiting for literally, like, your katas. Basically, you know, what did Shadowkeepers get? You know, what is everybody getting per? I'd like to see them have more of an identity again, based on, you know, which of the detachments you take. But I don't think they're going to get anything until the codex comes out. I'm sorry, but it's just. But the thing is I actually am kind of pumped to see what they do. You know what I mean? So that's a big deal. So I think Knights can be easily fixed with just a few things that they just roll back. One, again, why bondsman? Why? Yeah,
it's just something so core to how it looks like they designed everything. That's all I have to say on it.
It makes no sense to me. So it's a big deal in this, and the Custodes just need your codex. I'm not even going to go anywhere with that. Sorry, Custodes, they're not going to do anything till you get codex. They're just not. I would bet money on that. If I was put in Vegas, I would go all in on that. Imperial Knights, I feel that they'll probably roll points, bondsman up again. They obviously saw how bad it hurt them. They went way too far, and all they needed to do was say towering. I cannot. I hate this. I don't even.
One thing that did come up, and then we can move on to the World Championships that they covered. I don't think we need to give Overwatch back to Knights. I think you just leave that as it is. I think they're fine with just getting bondsman back and points.
I think that the flamer weapons need to have.
You could, but then you're splitting hairs. I think it's easier.
No, but I'm saying you don't give it to the Knights. You just give that weapon gets Overwatch even on Titanic.
Oh, you could do that too. You could also just say, I think
you just put it in the weapon. You put it in the weapon profile.
that could be an interesting change, and that would actually set a good precedent for splitting up rules like that. But we'll see what they do.
I am actually going to try out so much stuff. I have Jason coming in from Wisconsin, and he's bringing 7,000 points of Necron. So we have all of the models. Let's talk about the World Championships of Warhammer. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Finals. Vanguard Space Marines versus CSM All of the Things. Uh-oh. Is this a real... I'm going to quote this. Sean Rice. When you're good at the game, faction choice makes less of a difference.
There you go. That's straight from the mouth of Stu Black and the rules team. It's solved, guys. Meta's fixed. Space Marines versus Chaos Space Marines, just like they wanted. And it doesn't matter what army you take. It just matters, that you have the heart of the cards. And don't worry about anything else.
Do you tell us just to get better again?
Yeah. I think just roll better is what he was going for there.
No, he just said be better the last time.
That's true.
So it's a big deal in this. And I love the fact that there was very few other Marine in the top. CSM was wildly at the top, so was Eldar. And they were like, Stu's takeaways, Eldar is strong, but not dominant. Eldar were wildly overrepresented at the top. Like wildly overrepresented at the top. But they didn't win.
I want to joke with you guys and say that this wasn't his takeaway, but it actually was. So I felt like we could include it. His takeaway is the internet people think that Eldar are too good, and they're wrong because they didn't win. Now, just hit the next slide, Brad. Just because that's how I feel right now.
Yeah, I like the kid blowing himself up too. But, yes.
Yeah, there's that too.
I loved hearing that because I was just like, what? Like there was literally a 2-point game where the Eldar were in the finals. So
yeah. So maybe we pump the brakes on that, Stu, just a little bit. We address it, we reevaluate, and then finally you can proclaim it loud and proud, and they will actually be strong and not dominant. But for now, let's pump the brakes on that.
Now let's talk about the rock paper scissors meta, which is okay. To be honest with you, I do agree with this because it makes it. I like the puzzle of trying to solve the meta and having a weird rock paper scissors meta as opposed to one or two things being overly dominant meta is more fun to try to solve, in my opinion. So I like that. If you take the rock and the paper and you make them slightly worse, then figuring out what the best scissors is, I think is super fun. I enjoy trying to make lists for tournaments, and that's one of my jams. So I love figuring out the answer to this. So some people don't. Some people just want this is the best against everything. I like to figure out my jam. I'm also a special snowflake. I'm a pretty princess that needs people to pay attention to me. So I have a different view on how to make an army.
There you go. This is good cop. Good cop is talking. That's his role. GW agrees with you, Brad. They love the rock paper scissors meta.
Let's go. You want me to go back to? I can go to the next slide on that.
No, yeah. Go to the next slide.
I'll let you be the bad cop.
I'll be the bad cop. Okay. So what's bad about making Warhammer rock paper scissors? There's some games that do this very successfully, such as like Magic the Gathering. This is something that they often do. The difference is, and where we need to be careful here, because it's dangerous to get into the mentality that it's okay for everything to be rock, paper, scissors. Rock, paper, scissors works because you only have 3 choices, and all of them are equally balanced. That second part there is something you need to be very careful of, because 40K is a game about the choices that you make. And if your choice is automatically undermined at the start of a game because they have intentionally designed it to lose to something else, that is where we need to pump the brakes on that. Now, is it at the top of the meta, is it fine if Eldar loses to World Eaters that goes first, and World Eaters loses to CSM that goes first, and then, so on and so forth? Yes, that's fine. It's actually preferable from a competitive player standpoint for you to have defined boundaries that you can work within. The downside is if you walk up to a table and they've intentionally designed it so your army loses against your opponents, that's a feels bad moment. If all 27 different factions were all equally balanced, perfect scenario. I don't think we're going to get there, and that's why I think it's bad to have this. I think that's why it's bad to have this mentality, because if you only focus on what you want to be the rock, the paper, and the scissors at any given time, you're basically just inviting Eldar, World Eaters, and CSM into your house and then shutting the door on everybody else standing in the cult. And as long as we're not doing that, then it's great. But I think if you really start to promote your game as, look at us, we're so balanced, we're just as balanced as rock, paper, scissors, that's probably a little dangerous to get into, because it might make you a little lazy in actually fixing problems, instead of just saying, well, my golden children are fine, everybody else just needs to get good.
I mean, we've had that happen before.
Case in point.
Unbalanced Dataslate and points coming at the end of January. Is it the end of January? Is it the beginning of January? The world may never know.
Oh no, I'm here to tell you, from the last one, they said the second week of January, and they have firmly stated now.
So basically, whatever the cutoff for LVO is, the day after. Got it.
Exactly. Yep, that's what they're going for. And as you hit the next slide.
Yep.
That's why they did it.
Well, let's go into then where we're going to make bold predictions then, which we've got another slide coming on this, but I do want to talk about what do we think the new stuff is going to impact at all, if at all. AdMech and Necrons are out, and they're going to be ready.
And we assume that either Orcs or Dark Angels are also going to be ready. I think that's not a far off shot.
I think Orcs would be more meta defining, or not meta defining, but meta adjusting.
Yep.
Than DA would, because we've already got solid Marine play already that you have to deal with, and I don't think that it's going to be wildly out of the box for what they're going to put out. Maybe it's super OP at, you know what I mean, coming out of the box, but I don't think you're going to see it be nutty as far as if you're already getting ready for Vanguard, you're already getting ready for Ironstorm and Black Templars. I don't think that you're going to have to change wildly for DA. I think that if Orcs get a codex that has dominant speed freaks or crazy snakebite detachment, that has just a million guys in your face, you might have to change for that or both, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? Or a super crazy shooting army, freebooter style kind of thing. So I think that will shake up the meta more. In my personal opinion right now, again, we're going to be doing a bunch of testing for Necrons and looking into the AdMech. I think both of them are going to be good, but they're going to be where they already were, which is 50-some%. I just need to make sure I have the proper battlefield roles already in place for those armies.
That's exactly my thoughts. I think that for Necrons and AdMech, barring some crazy combination we don't see right off the bat, I think the tools that you're already bringing to handle them are still going to handle them. I think their Necrons in particular are not going to be as tough as they were. And if you are already aware of how to play against them, those same strategies are still valid, and it's even a little easier. AdMech, I don't think a lot of people are playing against AdMech too often, but again, just playing good, solid Warhammer will net you a lot of wins, as long as you know your army well and you know what your plan is against basically an opponent with okay shooting and good mobility. Dark Angels, I think it's the same thing. If you know how to play against Space Marines, if you already feel like you have good weapons in a Space Marines, which what it comes down to most of the time, you're going to be fine. Orcs are the one that have the most potential to just be wild. They could be unbelievably good based on how good they are right now and just getting improvements. as Brad said, if speed freaks just come out of the gate and are just awesome, that is terrifying to me. If freebooters are a thing, I mean, the first time I ever got shot by Bad Ruck and some flash kits, I rethought my life choices. And if they have several of those units, I am not looking forward to that. That could drastically change how I choose.
I think that they could be wild. You know what I mean? So, and I agree with what I first said. So let's talk about what they actually said. They're looking at the different internal balance of different armies. We have some Goldilocks zone win rates that they say are only held up by 1 or 2 units in several factions. So buffs incoming, which is actually really nice to hear. In the fact that they said buffs, because I hate the fact that historically, and don't get me wrong, they have done recently, GW has done a million times better at not just, General Grievous, 6 lightsaber nerf batting armies. They've done some nerfs, but they've raised the bottom and changed things. It's better to raise the floor than continually just lower the ceiling.
And this is specifically what they're looking at for the next balance state. So, and points. So keep that in mind when you're seeing these statements. This is how they view it right now. And the first thing that came to mind is obviously that picture. If you were playing AdMech, yes, you got a new codex. They know for sure that breachers were holding up that codex into a reasonable win rate. And they specifically called out AdMech as a faction that very much struggled at the beginning before they were looking at doing any balance changes to them. And over time, it was determined that they could exist in this Goldilocks zone that they love, so long as Cataphront breachers existed. So they're aware of that, and they said, just like in some other factions, they're looking to buff the units around that. They're not looking to nerf those units. And that's it's such a good thing to hear, because the last thing you want is, oh yeah, everybody's taken 3 of those. We'll just nerf that without any further, looking into it.
Well, that goes into the other slide also, though, because they have said that they know that there's internal balance. The people are taking 3 of certain data sheets, and this is literally how they've done this for a while. I worked with them for a long time, actually. GW, if they see that something's taken max times every single time in every single list they see, that's getting nerfed somehow. It'll be mechanics points, something is happening to that unit if it shows up in every single army with max. And that has always been their philosophy, that's going to happen. Period.
Oh, and their metric for that is actually a little bit different than we might think. You don't just go into BCP and look at the top army for that faction and say, oh, it's got 3 of those. Actually, what they do is they look at everyone who goes positive. If you are going positive and you have 3 of something in your list, they're probably going to say, hey, maybe that's a little too good. We're going to nerf that a little bit, and we're going to buff something else in its place. And that is, they talk about often, hey, we're going to lower this by 10 points and bump this other thing by 10 points. That is where they're going to, try to do that. They're not looking to, balance the faction as a whole to other factions. They're going to balance it inside of its own little core set of stuff.
Let's recap. So the next balance data sheet is January. They're going to do a lot of things, to be honest with you. So I'm very hopeful. I'm hopeful, and I have some trepidation going in. They're going to do Dataslate points. They're going to revisit the Dataslate they just did. They specifically mention, I don't know why they keep mentioning the Avatar. Who cares? Wreathguard and Night Spinners. If they did nothing to the Avatar, nothing would change. Like this, he's walking. But the meta, they like where the meta is, but they want to have effectively not the same thing. What's happening is you're seeing, we found these few data slates and every army just says 3, 3, 3, 3. You know what I mean? So they don't want that. And the big thing about this is we're not going to have any of this for LVO, which is a damn shame. It's a crime. But Cherokee Open could be the Wild West. It could be the hero we deserve.
And someone asked when the start of the season was. Then, actually. So at the start of the season, Cherokee Open, we're going to have potentially some wild looking armies. What is it? We'll have hopefully, no, by February, yeah, we'll have Orks, we'll have AdMech, we'll have Dark Angels, we'll have the balanced Dataslate and new points. So I'm really hoping that there are some crazy things to come out of the Cherokee Open.
Agreed. And I'm excited for this. I won't even rant on it, but just, man, I wish this was an LPL. But alas, we have stuff. Again, please like and subscribe. There's so few likes today, and it makes me sad. I have a tear in my eye. It's not just because I'm crying because Sean hit me with nails.
In his eyes. Making him angry on one step at a time.
I can only get that final step to Demon Prince. Sean, tell me what's going on this week with you on Dice with Rice.
We are pushing for 500 subscribers. That's what we're doing on Dice with Rice. We're almost there, and that's exciting. Thank you to everybody who pushed, really hard in the last 2 months. That's really great to see, and we've got more awesome content on the way.
Love it.
Brad, what do you have? You have some stuff.
I have some stuff. Tomorrow I'm going to be with Still Frosted Gaming at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be doing some random hobbying, and I'm going to be yapping more about Necrons and AdMech, forcing myself to love on the AdMech a little bit. But I'm going to be talking about new stuff. He's going to be working on his hobby projects. And then Thursday is going to be showcasing, hopefully, a lot of community projects, different models that people have sent me. I've got a backload of pictures that I want to show, and I want to show everybody what people are working on.
Sweet. Sounds like a good week of chill hobbying and getting ready to roll into the weekend pretty hard to test a lot of different Necron builds.
And of course, a hot tub stream with Sean Rice.
Coming soon, PM.
Loving it. All right, everybody. Queenswave.